All right. Well, welcome everyone to this week's edition of the Commercial Real Estate 101 podcast. It's been a little while since we pushed one of these lives. I think the last episode I pushed out was in November, and obviously the holidays got kind of crazy, and we had a lot of stuff going on. And now we are here in the new year, and we're hitting the ground running. And part of the beginning of this year, we made an announcement that we started a new firm, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity for me and my business partner to hop on the call, Will Bockoven, and we're going to be talking a little bit about, what was the impetus for wanting to start this new brokerage, and then ultimately what the long-term vision of the organization is, and how we're hopefully going to be a little bit different than the other people we're competing against. So, Will, awesome to be here as always. I feel like we talk multiple times a day, but it's just another time to catch up.
We do. We are partners now, so it's an all-day affair, day in, day out. So weekends too. I think we still chat on the weekends some.
We do. Yeah, we do. Yeah, it's always nice, and obviously we live in the same area, and we obviously have gotten to know each other much better over the last several months. So it's been really cool to get to know you, and I'm honored to be your business partner and looking forward to build something pretty cool. But for those who have not known a little bit about you, we did have an episode a while back, which maybe we'll link in the show notes in some way. But we did talk about your experiences on the development front last year. It was one of our top episodes actually from a download standpoint. So that was kind of cool. But overall, I just wanted for you to provide some context to the audience about who you are, what your background is, and maybe we can, dive in from there.
Sure. Happy to do it. So Will Bockoven, native Louisvillian, been here most of my life. My entry point into real estate's from the property management side. Before that, I was in financial services. I worked for Morgan Stanley. I worked for Merrill Lynch in Houston, Texas, primarily oil and gas. So I've always been interested in the numbers side of the business, and that's what attracts me to the commercial real estate is strictly the numbers, the investment side, the inner workings. But property management is a little different than actual just being a broker, and you really get to know properties, the inner workings. And I always like to say that you date your broker and you marry your property manager. So my background there really got me started. And it wasn't until late in the game that I really got into representing for buyers and sellers and tenants and owners. But yeah, that's kind of the main core of my background. I've had some experience with lending a little bit, but most of what I do has been property management.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and that's an area that I personally don't have as much experience in outside of maybe managing my own fourplex for a long time. You're 100% right on the property management front. I mean, they can really make or break an asset too, because as you know, with property management, there's so many moving pieces that you have to make sure are properly functioning so that the asset stays, clean, it stays up to date, that tenant requests are dealt with in a timely manner. If there's anything in particular that needs to be taken care of, then you're kind of the first point of contact. And so it is an important piece of the puzzle. And just because you buy a performing asset from day one, if you have bad management, it could, lead to problems down the road. So,
and the cap rate changes day one. You buy an asset, the very first day that cap rate is going to change. Mm-hmm. And just because they say they're going to do something inside a lease agreement, well, somebody's got to administer the lease. It's not going to be automatic. And the OMs, we've all seen broker OMs. You got to verify a lot of that information. So being in property management really taught me about where all the bones are buried, about some of the problems and, the little things that people hide here and there. It's maybe become a much better transactor when I represent someone for buying and selling.
Yeah, no, 100%. And on the ownership side too, on the, I think I became a much better broker when I started to buy property, because I got an understanding of what the pain points are for owners and things that need to be considered. And, a lot of times, unless you do own a property for a period of time, you don't really face significant challenges, because there's going to be times where there's capital improvements that need to take place. There's going to be times where tenants aren't making payments. There's going to be times where, there's some other thing that happens in the property that can cause a big problem. And so you kind of just have to manage it and get through it. And there's some days where you're pulling your hair out and, it's very frustrating. And there's other days where, you're thankful that you made the decision because you look back and say, oh, wow, like if I didn't make that jump then into ownership, then I wouldn't have appreciated this much. I wouldn't have had this much cash flow, and I wouldn't have put my family in a position to be successful. So, obviously that's of benefit immensely.
But wait, I thought commercial wasn't supposed to be emotional at all. I thought it was supposed to be all just real easy stuff and just business like. So
yeah, no,
not so.
no, sorry if you thought that, you're probably in the wrong room. But what I wanted to do on this podcast was kind of provide some clarity as to the decision making process as to why we decided to kind of do our thing together. I know you had your own firm for a little while prior to me, deciding to get together with you and starting a new firm. But I guess let's kind of talk a little bit about the timeline of how things kind of transpired, some of the conversations we were having throughout the process before deciding to start this firm, and then we can dive more into the vision that we see this thing going, and some of the things that we've already put in place to try to make sure that we're a competitive firm going forward. So to start out, I guess, I'm trying to kind of put the pieces together. How do we first kind of get connected? Because it was relatively recently.
It was. I think it was about a year ago, and I was solo. I was on my own, and I think you were exploring. You were with a small firm,
Mm-hmm.
fantastic name, great reputation, and I think you were at that part in your career where you were making a decision about, well, what should I do? And you had a number of decisions. You could go with a bigger firm, you could go solo, you could join up, and I really agnostically just, I think we talked about that a lot, like what would be the next part of your career.
Mm-hmm.
And I think eventually it just kind of came full circle. And I don't know whose idea it was, but we thought, well, uh, what are your skill sets? What are my skill sets? What are your goals? What are my goals? And it just kind of came to be. I don't think it was master planned out. I think it just became an option over time. And then
Yeah.
it was just a matter of, well, what are your financial goals and what are my financial goals? And frankly, it's tough being a solo broker for any business, whether, I mean, if you're a lawyer or even a doctor. And the question for me is, does 1 + 1 = 3? And
Mm-hmm.
if you can do that, if you have the right synergies, well, why not?
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, yeah, and we got connected. I want to say I think you may have reached out, and you had reached out to me and Barrett a while ago,
Mhm.
just out of the blue, and then we started kind of formalizing. We just became friendly with each other periodically. Would reach out to each other and just have conversations. And yeah, then we started kind of talking a little bit about the future. And I mean, like you said, you'd run your firm for several years and had a lot of success with what you were doing on a variety of different fronts. And, I had gotten my broker's license back in like March of this last year or April this last year. And so, I kind of always knew that I wanted to eventually do my own thing. But to your point, we had a lot of conversations, just more so not in the sense of, hey, let's team up. It was more of just like an advice type of dynamic where we just were kind of just talking about life and things, how to walk through that process. And I think it was just a very organic, conversation eventually where we're like, well, we both operate in the same space.
Yep.
We both have similar visions of where we want to go. We're both high integrity, and we both really care about helping other people in our business. Why not just see if this can take us somewhere? And so that started back in, I want to say, was it like August, you think? We started
It
kind of just
was, yeah.
putting
And
some
also,
pieces in place.
and something to consider too. I mean, for those of you out there who are brokers, we spend a lot of time by ourselves, or
Mm-hmm.
and we're thinking about these things. So we had there's a select group of people I think we talked to who are already having dialogue. I mean, we're not compromising clients' information, but we
No.
are having conversations and saying, "Hey, what are your thoughts here?" Not just about deal opportunities, but like how you handle a client's requests or thoughts. So we're already having daytime dialogue about a lot of these things. So it kind of made sense to just formalize it. So instead of being on the phone across town, we can just, it's to another office, next door. So
Yeah. Well, starting out, we definitely did coffee shops. So we would meet up
there you go.
periodically and just kind of go through things, and kind of getting the reason I want to kind of highlight this is because it kind of showcases the progress you make towards starting something. Because I think when, I don't know if you've encountered this, but I there's no playbook as to how you should start your own brokerage or your own firm. So a lot of times it's just like you're shooting in the dark and hoping something sticks. And that's why I felt in certain respects when we were going through the process, because, luckily you had done it before on your end. So you were obviously very well versed in some of the processes we need to take from the state level. But as far as making sure we have some systems in place to be able to then go through the process of recruiting people, onboarding people, and formalizing that process. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's not just one day you snap your fingers and you got a new business and you can hit the ground running. It's, hey, we got to set all these things up properly so that, number one, we remain compliant, and number two, we can actually build momentum going into the year, as opposed to having to figure things out over the next year or two because we're kind of piecemealing stuff together. So, the first, I would say there was probably 3 months or 4 months solid where we were meeting pretty regularly to kind of formulate all the different things we would need to do, create a list of different things we were going to take care of, action items, etc., so that we could get to this point. And we still got a long ways to go, but we've made a lot of progress over the last 3 to 4 months. So
We have lists of lists now.
yeah, we have a lot of lists.
Yeah.
Yeah, my VA, Charlene, she's amazing, but she may be watching this. She's been very helpful in creating lists. So I always say, hey, can you create a checklist of this thing, and then we have her get in there and try it out and see what happens. But so yeah, I mean, that process took a while, but I think, again, it kind of goes to show that regardless of where you are in your career, or if your desire is to eventually do your own thing, you have to plan it out. It takes time. It's not an immediate thing, and it's okay to get disheartened at times because it's not, a natural thing. There's not a lot of information out there, but obviously know that at the end of the day you can get there. But you just need to be deliberate about making sure that you set up the processes and systems so that you're not going to scramble once you actually get going. So. Yeah, so I was kind of curious about, the vision of the firm. So just to give you guys perspective, the group itself is called Summit Commercial Group, and our goal with the firm is to really become a regional player. So incorporating, the neighboring states, including Kentucky. Well, we're in Kentucky currently, but we have Indiana just north of us, Ohio just north of us,
Ohio.
Tennessee's just south of us. So within those just 4 states, and in the future there may be potential for expansion nationally, but for the first 5 years that we're really focusing our attention, the regional presence is really what we're focusing on. I mean, we just did the math on the major cities that we're in within this corridor, and you're talking, 15 million. What was it? 12 million to 15 million
About,
people?
10 to 12 million within
Yeah.
a short drive time of Louisville. I mean, you're talking about Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Columbus, Nashville, Lexington, and there's quite a bit in the backyard. So
Yeah. So the total addressable market is kind of what we looked at and said, if we can become a dominant player and within our this sandbox, I mean, we could have a unique selling proposition to people who are looking in the market, because, yeah, granted, there's a lot of national firms out there that have presence in all 50 states, but do they have the type of intimate knowledge of markets for people who are just focused on this smaller sandbox? And I think that's where we can really be competitive in the first at least 5 years of the firm's existence. And so we're looking forward to trying to see if there's a way we can build upon that. But as far as the vision's concerned, I mean, could you share a little bit about maybe the process or the conversations that we had, and maybe what you see the vision of the firm being over the next several years?
sure, and that's a big question to ask.
Yeah.
But and just thinking out loud here, is the vision is to definitely serve. Again, there's national firms out there and they're institutional level firms, but I think there's a large market of people that are interested in local. They want a locally domiciled company. We are from Kentucky. This is our backyard. This is where we're from. And quite frankly, our clients really enjoy that. They also enjoy talking with people that are owners of the company nearby. And again, it's all about suitability. For some institutional clients, they want an institutional firm, but that's not always the case, and it hasn't been my experience. So having a vision where, again, it's relatively local, we can serve a 3 or 4 state area region. I think that's building the firm and targeting people that whether it's investment sales, whether it's office product, relocation services for their business. Uh, those are the high points. They could be medical office, industrial, retail. We're experienced in all those. And even covering other service lines such as property management, development services. We work with a lot of developers, people who are looking at property and whether it's a ground up construction or a adaptive reuse. We have experience with that. So that's the vision. I think regional,
Mm-hmm.
local, people who respect and need. They want to talk to the owner. They want to talk to people who have owned real estate.
Absolutely. And both of us have unique experience in the respective verticals within commercial real estate. Obviously, you have a lot of experience in brokerage, and you've developed property, done, pretty big adaptive reuse in Lexington. You had a large office building conversion that you took on. You've owned other properties as well, so you're very familiar with the property management side. I've done a lot in the brokerage side, and obviously on the media front as well. So with, coupling a lot of the things that you talked about regarding the vision, I think a big piece of what we're going to try to do is to become, a trusted advisor or educator of what we are selling or what we are doing, because I feel like a lot of times in the commercial real estate industry, it is a very gate-kept industry, and a lot of information is kind of closely held to the vest. But if, one of the things we talked about is becoming a tech-enabled firm where we can start delivering valuable information to owners about average rates in town, or average price per square foot for certain sections of the city where you may own commercial property, or educating people about the different terminology within commercial real estate, which I've done a lot of on the YouTube channel. But again, stuff like that, where you whenever you see one of our agents or people within our organization, you think, oh, these guys know what they're doing. These guys are delivering a level of value that other firms aren't really focused on, because they're not focused. They're just more focused on the day-to-day operations of getting through the day without really thinking about what the long-term value proposition you have, which is, again, to be of value to your clients. And the best way to do that is to be able to deliver information is the big one, because information is king. You can make decisions with information when it's presented in front of you. And then obviously providing excellent service in the form of understanding your market like the back of your hand, the regional presence, and also, commitment to educating yourself about what's going on around you. So I thought that was, a good way to kind of share some insights with people who, want to inquire about the firm and learn about what we have to offer. And, yeah, it could be a very good fit for the right person.
I think it's worthy to mention collaboration.
Yes.
Within the firm and outside of the firm, you are very involved in CCIM, in the Louisville, Kentucky CCIM. And I think, a lot of agents in our business, they keep their cards close to their vest. And I think, everyone has competition, and healthy competition is fine. But I think we do a really good job of collaborating on our own listings. I mean, we work in tandem. So a lot of our clients get both of us, which is a huge deal. But also in the community, talking to other brokers throughout the day. I mean, I talk to 10, 12, I don't know about a day, but during the week, I'm constantly talking to a large number, not just for property inquiries either, just to kind of get a sense of what's going on around town, what's being built, what lease rates are. So collaboration, I think, is something that's different with us that you don't see with other firms quite as much.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of good firms out there, but that's just something I don't see.
100%. And there are some firms out there that are very cutthroat, competitive, and, it's kind of every person for themselves. And, the good thing about my previous experience is that I had an opportunity to work for a firm that was really high integrity. They did things right, and they operated in a way that you described, which is very collaborative. And I really valued that from my previous experience, because, again, it just fosters that type of community, and it fosters a like a reciprocity organization where people feel the need to give their time and talents to others to help them grow. And that translates to your clients, because if you have an organization that operates in that manner, it's naturally going to translate to the people that you're ultimately serving. And so I agree with you. I think that's a great point that you made regarding that. And, I'm looking forward to encouraging people that have interest to consider it, because, just as an example, we probably have, I don't know, 6 listings or 7 listings over the last several weeks. And Will and I are actively working together on these deals and trying to work through getting them to the finish line. And, again, I obviously value Will immensely, and I'm sure I can contribute in some way as well. And over time, you create, as Will put it earlier, it's, 1 + 1 = 3 at that point. So it's very, very insightful. So one thing I wanted to ask before we kind of open up to Q&A, it seems like there's a lot of people that are on the live stream, and they're starting to type away a little bit. So I guess my question to you is, what would you say would be a kind of a call to action? And let's break it up into two different people. So one person is someone who is considering doing their own thing, because that's something that, again, the people who are the demographics for this channel, there's a lot of people who are earlier to mid in their career. And so, they're earlier in their career, maybe have aspirations to own their own firm one day. And then those who are in mid in their career may very well be at the point where they're making that decision. What advice would you give to those people who are looking to eventually make the switch into starting their own thing? And, what, I guess, from your experience doing it once before and obviously once with a partner?
Mm-hmm. Well, first I'd say, how do you know when to go solo? Is that essentially the question? How do you know? I don't think.
And advice for that transition, because the transition piece, and you've done it before. I know I've done it before in my previous career where I jumped ship and went into brokerage, and that was a terrifying experience. I obviously have talked about it many times on the podcast, but sometimes in the brokerage side, it can be a somewhat similar experience as well, where you have an established organization that you're a part of, and now it's like, okay, we're going to create a brand new thing. And granted, you're a commissioned sales agent, so if you are a performer, you should be able to still perform and generate the income. But it is still kind of a disconnect where, maybe you were an established firm that had a name that kind of got you in the door early on, and now it's like you're starting a brand new organization. There's no clout, there's no real name recognition. So I guess, how would you decide? How would you make that switch if you were someone in that position, and also some other considerations as you go through that process or set up for that process?
So the first is, I think there's some emotional preparation for it. I mean, there's checklists about, I could tell you, KREC and all that, but I think emotionally preparing for it, you have to become, in this business, well, first just getting into the business itself, whether you're at a firm or going on your own, you have to be comfortable with uncertainty. You just can't map everything out. You're not going to do A and get B. You're going to get A and get R, and you don't know when. So just preparing yourself for that kind of emotional, that uncertainty of, I don't know, there's always going to be an element of that. The second is, if you're working, obviously you want to prepare with your clients, and you have to determine, well, what kind of a client base do I have? You might even want to consider talking to one of your clients. Some of my clients are very close friends, and the repeat business, and I've talked to them a lot, and I'll actually bounce things off of them, like, hey, if I'm going to go solo, or if it were just me, what are your thoughts? So I think that's the second thing, is if you have some clients that you feel that way about, having conversations with them. And then the third is just being very, very organized. You just have to be very organized, because if it's just you, no one else is going to prompt you. It's you. You're the start and finish. You have to be responsible for the IT, for the taxes. You have to be responsible for the legal, and just be prepared and have those people in place. So really, those are the first three things that come to mind.
Yeah, no, that's some great advice. And the fact that you had talked about going solo by yourself, I to this day, I've yet to do it by myself. So it's, I could imagine when you first did it and started your own firm, it was probably a similar experience where it's like, okay, well, it's all on me now. There's no one that's going to come bail me out if there's anything happens. And not to say a partner needs to bail you out, but at least you can, rely on that other person to kind of fill in the gaps if for whatever reason you're missing something. So definitely a value, but I think you're right. I mean, you're 100% right. Getting an understanding on the emotional front, if in fact you can, stomach the jump, and prepping yourself for that initial several months and potentially a year or two, however long, because you just don't know. So it's very valuable information.
It is scary, and it is a jump. And I don't think it's not going to ever be 100% buttoned up. It's never, the world is never going to tell you you're ready. I think that was like from Peter Dinklage, like a video I watched. I stole that, but it's the truth. No one is going to tell you like, okay, you're ready now. You just have to govern yourself, and it's a decision to make. But once you do it, it's good. It's just you learn to adjust to it. The challenges are still there, but you learn to kind of acclimate to it.
Definitely. Well, some great advice. So what we'll go ahead and do is we'll type, for those of you guys who are watching, feel free to type away in the chat box if you guys have any questions in particular. Obviously we wanted to take this time to kind of give an announcement of the fact that we're now a new firm called Summit Commercial Group, and that we are actively looking to onboard agents that are passionate, driven, high integrity, that are willing to, put in the extra effort to make sure that they deliver excellent results to their clients, but also just to make ourselves available to you all as a resource. Obviously, this is a community of people who have come together over the last really almost 5 years now of having this podcast. And we have people tuning in from all over the world that have interest in commercial real estate. They're brokers, they're attorneys, they're, lenders, all different types and individuals in different verticals within commercial real estate. And so obviously we're here as a resource, and we're looking forward to hearing your all's feedback going forward. But to start off, what we'll go ahead and do is we'll go in some of these comments. So hey Cal, he said, "Let's go, Will and Raph." So he's a local.
Just spoke to that man today.
Oh, you did? Cool. That's awesome.
I did. Yeah, I gave him a nice little lead, I hope. And he called her immediately, which is incredible.
Yeah, it's good to hear. Cal's a great guy. I really like Cal a lot. And, obviously he knows us decently well, just being a local broker. So it's always good to see other brokers show support. So thanks, Cal.
Thank you, Cal.
Sam. Greetings from Chattanooga. I actually have a call with Sam tomorrow to kind of go over a few things. So it'll be really nice to catch up with Sam. All right. So Steve, this is your buddy, and I haven't a chance to meet you yet, Steve. I think we talked on the phone once, but I'm looking forward to
Steve is with SVN, and they're doing big things in Middletown over there. So
that's awesome. So the question is, how does your firm compete with larger companies? Are you integrating AI into the business?
You can take the AI question, but how do you compete with larger companies? Well, there's a lot of big brands. We won't mention them. We know who they are. And, I might be repetitive here, but I think it's, again, all about suitability. Is that some clients that are giant institutions, they enjoy a big institutional firm. Most of the people that we talk to, they don't want the company to be headquartered 500 miles away in some big city. They want to deal with people local. We're the owners of our firm. That's been my experience the last several years when I had my own firm. So being able to be local, the ownership's here, experienced, and that's the first thing I'd say. The second is the fact that, again, Raphael and I work on a lot of deals together. They really enjoy the tandem approach. We both have different skill sets, a lot of overlap. Those are the two main points I can think of as how we compete.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll speak briefly on the AI side. I mean, just stuff that we are actively working with right now, obviously ChatGPT, but really customizing your own GPT. So we created our own GPT and have been training it, utilizing different information that we found useful. And over time, it's just going to continually refine. And there's a lot of different, new extensions not extensions, but different models for ChatGPT that have come out recently. One being a task queue. So we're going to start experimenting with trying to generate reports utilizing that on a weekly basis. And as you start to feed your GPT, obviously you train it and you input data and all of those stuff. Now it can become a much more cohesive reporting tool that you can then share with different clients. And we've explored different technologies as well. I constantly send Will videos of different people talking about different AI platforms, and we're always brainstorming about ways to potentially incorporate that into our business. And a lot of technology too doesn't necessarily have to be AI. It could just be ways for you to improve your efficiency. We're actively talking about CRM technology to be able to help us make sure we stay on track, and especially on the reporting side, as you start to onboard people, to be able to track what they're doing on a day-to-day. Because obviously, as the leader of a firm, you have to know how people within your organization, we have to help them set goals, and then based on those goals, you have to track the activity to the key performance indicators to ensure that they're able to hit those goals. And so we're still building out stuff, candidly, because we're 2 weeks in now, so there's still some things we're working through. But again, we're constantly thinking about ways to augment our activities with technology that can streamline processes and also make the experience better for our clients. And I think that's somewhat unique in the business. Obviously there's other firms out there that are thinking similarly, but a lot of firms, they've just been doing the same thing for 20 plus years and it's worked for them. But I think going forward in particular, if you're not thinking this way and constantly trying things out to make sure that you're streamlining and improving your processes, at some point it's going to catch up with you. So we're definitely understanding of that, and we want to make sure that we are constantly staying at the forefront of these types of tools. So hope that answered your question. And then, just in the meantime, as we wait for a question or two more, Will, I guess, was there a question or maybe a something that I maybe didn't talk about or ask this particular interview that you wish I did, and maybe that can kind of help round out the conversation?
No, we should definitely have a follow-up to this,
Mhm.
maybe in 6 months progress and what we've done.
Yeah.
But no, I think be pretty clear about how we share the vision and how we're moving forward and why we made the decision to get together and what we plan to do. And no, I think we're on target.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. I do like your idea of doing this maybe either quarterly or biannually, where we get together and we talk about KPIs and kind of
Hmm.
share where we're at and things that we've been able to do, maybe the challenges we faced and the wins, the losses, et cetera. It would be kind of nice to be able to provide that context, because I don't see a whole lot of people doing that in this type of format, which would be kind of refreshing to see. So
And I think business plans too, they're designed, like not everything's going to go according to plan. There's going to be adjustments and edits and, we'll have to revise a few things here and there and things we thought would work, maybe not. But um, yeah, I think an update here and there would be good. So, but yeah.
yeah, and if nothing else, just to kind of share insights with people who are looking to do something similar. And for us, it would be accountability, because if we know that in the next few weeks we got to deliver a state of the union, as they say,
Yeah.
and we're not close to our goals, we're gonna be like, oh god, we gotta kick ourselves into gear to make sure we're able to not present ourselves to the world and fall short from expectations. So
I think though the most important thing, if we're talking about partnerships, I know this is about brokerage in general and starting one, but brokerages are partnerships, they're relationships. The number one most important thing by a long shot is a personality match.
mhm.
Do you have a good personality, someone you're working with that you feel like you can have a good short-term and long-term plan? And look, we have an operating agreement, and those are important, but you really want to have a really good person you're working with that you feel like, okay, I can trust this person. I can get along with them, have a beer with them. And I definitely feel that way. And you've had a tremendous amount of success already. Like, it blows me away you've done as much as you have and 5, 6 years. It's pretty incredible coming into the market and doing that. So, but yeah, I think being able to align yourself and being compatible with your partner is definitely important.
Definitely. Yeah. And we talk about it sometimes. It's almost like a marriage sometimes, where you're like, you have to kind of be able to communicate about pretty much anything that you need to make sure that we're moving the ball forward. So, obviously I value your partnership, Will, and I'm looking forward to building something really cool together. And if people wanted to learn more about what we have going, or learn more about you and all the things that we're trying to accomplish, what's the best way for them to reach out?
There's always email, will at somecg.com, of course. Your channel, of course, if they can get a hold of you, they can get a hold of me. I think we can put in the show notes contact information. But no, I really appreciate you. I think this is a very good arrangement, and I'm happy about it, and I think it's smart. And yeah, I look forward to it. I think we're gonna have some really good. We've already experiencing a lot of good success already. So yeah.
Yeah, we've definitely hit the ground running, which I'm really excited about this January, and I'm looking forward for hopefully a pretty big year. And again, I think another reason we decided we want to do this was obviously to share what we're trying to accomplish. So kind of a call to action for those individuals who are listening is, if you yourself or someone who you think is driven, passionate, you're very high integrity, you don't stray from ethics. We're really excited about the opportunity to potentially collaborate. So if you guys have any interest in talking about opportunities, don't hesitate to reach out. Will and I are obviously very much available, and we're looking forward to growing Summit Commercial Group, not only in our local market, which will definitely be a focal point for the near term, but overall the region. This incorporates Indiana, Tennessee, and Ohio. So really looking forward to keeping in touch with you all. Don't hesitate to reach out if you guys have any questions. Again, this channel is kind of the watering. I've tried to make this into the watering hole for commercial real estate. So again, no question's a dumb question. We're always really excited to be around with you all. So thanks again for so much for tuning in. If you guys like this channel, please like and subscribe. If you guys are listening to this podcast in a audio format, leave a 5-star review. It makes a big difference in our ability to reach a broader audience, and we obviously greatly appreciate the support. So thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time.
Thanks for hosting.